Story 1. The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald by Gordon Lightfoot is a hauntingly sad song about a real shipwreck in Canada on Lake Superior in 1975. Story 2. The song The Show Must Go On by Queen should definitely be included. It was recorded about a year before Freddie's passing and reportedly completed in one take because he didn't have the energy for more. Story 3. Strange Fruit by Billie Holiday is a protest poem originally written about lynchings in 1930 and later set to music. Billie dedicated it to her late father, who died from an illness related to his service in World War I. He did not receive adequate treatment due to Jim Crow laws. No label executive wanted to record the song because they feared backlash from record stores in the South. However, Billie convinced her friend, the owner of Commodore Records, to record it after she performed it for him, bringing him to tears. Story 4. David Bowie's final album, Black Star, is deeply evocative. I could only listen to it once. He was aware of his impending death, which is the central theme of the songs. Story 5. Adam's Song by Blink-182. A survivor from Columbine hung himself in his garage with this song on repeat. Please tell Mom this is not her fault. Story 6. I was playing a big playlist of nostalgic music when I said goodbye to my sister for what was likely the last time before a very high-risk surgery needed to try to save her life. I had been playing the music for her from my phone, and she asked, "Why did the music stop?" I sadly told her it was time for me to go. Her face fell. That last hug and kiss goodbye was gut-wrenching. A few hours later, when I was sitting in seat 2B, ready for my plane to take off, I thought of putting on music for takeoff. I looked down and saw what song had been playing when I paused it last. It was paused right at this line. Oh, where can my baby be? The Lord took her away from me. Last Kiss, the Pearl Jam version. So there I was, crying my eyes out, surrounded by a bunch of strangers, as well as my kids whom I was trying to help have a good takeoff. The original artist who wrote the song, Wayne Cochran, was inspired to write it when he lived near a dangerous highway that had several bad accidents each year. And my sister? She ended up miraculously living. We still don't know how much more she will recover, but she has made tremendous progress so far. All those tears for nothing, and I'm perfectly happy with that. Story 7. Like a by Will Wagner. It is a song written from the perspective of the first dog sent into space, never to return. And I drift away, but that's okay. There's more room to play out here than back in my cage. Story 8. Song of the Last Kauai'u. It is the last recording of a bird calling out for a mate that no longer exists. There are pauses in the song for the partner to sing, but none are left to sing back. Story 9. Wake Me Up When September Ends. The poor guy wrote it about his father dying and receives messages every year saying September is over. Story 10. Vincent by Don McLean is a beautiful and haunting song about Vincent van Gogh, who had a tragic life and death. Story 11. Tears in Heaven by Eric Clapton is about his young child who tragically died after falling from a window. Story 12. Probably not the saddest song I know, but a surprising one. Drops of Jupiter by Train sounds like an upbeat, happy song. However, it is not about a former romantic partner who went on a trip overseas to find herself. It is about the death of the lead singer's mother and how he imagined she was flying through space after passing away. Story 13. I'm Not Gonna Miss You by Glenn Campbell is a goodbye song he wrote for his wife after discovering he had rapidly advancing dementia and didn't have much time left to recognize her face. He expresses his sorrow for not being there for the pain he is about to cause her. Story 14. Fire and Rain by James Taylor is written about Suzanne Schneier, who was lost to suicide, among other topics that were troubling Taylor. Story 15. Fast Car has an uplifting vibe, especially during the chorus, but the lyrics become progressively more depressing until she finally leaves. Then, the feeling of wasted time and effort, along with the notion that all of this was for nothing, sinks in, as does the loneliness. I hate it, but I love it too. Story 16. The Parting Glass is at least 400 years old. It is a song traditionally sung at the final goodbye for a guest, serving as the last toast before they depart on their journey. The song has Scottish origins. Story 17. I Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. It might not be the saddest song, but in my personal context, it is the first song that played on the radio while driving home from my father's funeral. Story 18. The song Next Right Thing from Frozen 2 resonates deeply due to real-life connotations. Co-director Chris Buck had lost a son just after the first movie, and the songwriter witnessed his resilience as he continued to work on the film and handle press and promotions despite his immense loss. This strength inspired the song, capturing the sentiment of taking one step forward when that's all one can face in the moment. It is surprisingly poignant for a song from the Frozen series. Story 19. Blues Run the Game by Jackson C. Frank. His first album was produced by Paul Simon in 1965, but Frank was diagnosed with schizophrenia and could not continue his music career. He was reportedly homeless by the end of his life. This makes the heartbreaking song even more poignant. Story 20. The first song that came to mind was Christmas Kids. When I first heard it, I loved the chorus, and then I learned the history behind it. The song is about a pop star who kept his wife against her will for years. The lyrics describe what he did to make her stay and how he threatened her if she tried to leave him. It gives me chills listening to it now. Story 21. Limousine by Brand New tells the story of the singer, Jesse, witnessing a car crash. The limousine, either heading to or from a family wedding, was struck by a drunk driver who chose to drink heavily after a fight with his girlfriend. Inside the limousine, a little girl, Katie, was thrown out and died in the street. Jesse witnessed the entire incident, which profoundly affected him, leading him to contemplate leaving everything behind due to the trauma. Story 22. Wake Up by Mad Season featuring Lane Staley serves as a warning to himself regarding his addiction. Slow suicide is no way to go, he sang, yet that is exactly what he did. It's truly a shame. Story 23. I didn't realize it until recently, but Puff the Magic Dragon reminded me of my daughter, who is my Jackie Paper. Story 24. Casimir Pulaski Day. Sufjan has many sad ones, but that is my favorite. The predatory wasp of the Palisades is out to get us is also one of my top choices. Story 25. Surprised no one has mentioned Jeff Buckley's cover of Hallelujah. It is the definitive version of a great song. It is haunting and tragic. Buckley drowned before the song found success. Story 26. The Way by Fastball is about an older couple with dementia who got in the car one day and drove off. They intended to go to the county fair but got lost and both died. Story 27. Moon River, sung by Audrey Hepburn, is a song about being in love and the commitment to follow one's partner no matter what. It was my favorite lullaby to sing to my daughter and the last lullaby I sang to her as I held her in my arms when she passed away at 3 months old. The line "We're after the same rainbow's end, waiting round the bend, my huckleberry friend, Moon River and me," makes me hope she will be there waiting for me someday when I pass, just around the bend. Story 28. One More Light by Linkin Park. The fact that Chester recorded it before he took his own life is depressing. Such an incredible artist. Story 29. The second half of Joy Division's second and final album, Closer, and the single Love Will Tear Us Apart, showcase a man in complete despair, on the edge of sanity. The man who wrote and sang the lyrics, Ian Curtis, suffered from severe epilepsy that threatened his music career, as well as a marriage that was crumbling due to his affair with another woman. By the time the single and album were released, Curtis had taken his own life at the age of just 23. As an example of the lyrics, here is a section from 24 Hours. Just for one moment, I heard somebody call, looked beyond the day in hand, there's nothing there at all. Now that I've realized how it's all gone wrong, gotta find some therapy, this treatment takes too long. Deep in the heart of where sympathy held sway, gotta find my destiny before it gets too late. Story 30. The Night We Met was always sad for me, but after it was played at my best friend's funeral, I can't listen to it without crying. It's been 2 years. I miss her a lot. Story 31. Keep Me in Your Heart by Warren Zevon resonates with me every time, as does an obscure song from his early days called Tooley's Blues. Story 32. Jason Isbell's song, Elephant, features brilliant songwriting and imagery. As a cancer survivor, it resonates with me on a deeper level. Story 33. I Don't Like Mondays by the Boomtown Rats tells the story of a 16-year-old girl named Brenda Spencer, who committed a school shooting at Grover Cleveland Elementary School in 1979. She injured 8 children and a police officer and killed the custodian and the principal. She chose to shoot one of the children because he was wearing her favorite color, blue. When asked by a reporter why she did it, she replied, "I don't like Mondays. This livens up the day. I remember my dad telling me about it, and it chilled me." Story 34. Daddy by Korn tells the story of the lead singer's traumatic experience of being abused by his babysitter during childhood. When he confided in his mother, she did not believe him. Midway through the song, he breaks down emotionally, expressing his pain and struggles. Story 35. Jeremy by Pearl Jam tells the story of a troubled boy who takes his own life in class. The haunting lyrics express how Jeremy made his voice heard through a tragic act. Story 36. Fiddler Green by the Tragically Hip was written by Gord Downie in remembrance of his 5-year-old nephew, who passed away due to a heart condition. Traditionally, Fiddler Green represents a magical place in the afterlife where fiddles play forever and people never tire of dancing. The band rarely performed it live because it was too painful for Gord. However, they did play it at their final concert before he passed away from terminal cancer. I can't think of the song without becoming emotional. Story 37. In the song Heavy by Linkin Park, lead singer Chester Bennington expresses the mental struggles he faced and describes the feeling of heaviness. One notable line states, "I keep dragging around what's bringing me down. If I just let go, I'll be set free." Sadly, he later took his own life. Story 38. Empty Garden, Hey Hey Johnny by Elton John was meant to pay tribute to John Lennon, who was shot just 15 months before the release of this song. Story 39. Stay Another Day by East 17 sounds like it is about a romantic relationship coming to an end, but it is actually about Tony Mortimer's brother who died by suicide. Story 40. Bronte by Gaudier is a song written about the artist's experience of letting go of their 21-year-old dog, Bronte. The lyrics resonate with anyone who has lost a pet, and understanding the context of the song's creation adds an extra layer of emotional depth. Story 41. Horses Stay Behind by the Starboard Cannons. The song is about the Australian cavalry in World War I. When the fighting ended, the men were informed that there was no money to bring the horses home with them. The animals were going to be slaughtered for meat. Many of the soldiers chose to shoot their beloved mounts themselves rather than watch them be taken to abattoirs. Story 42. Distance by Wolfgang Van Halen is a song about losing your father. In Loving Memory by Alter Bridge is a song about losing your mother. Story 43. Stronger Than I Was by Eminem resonates deeply with me. Also, Habits by Tove Lo is impactful. Not because it's a love song, but because the line, "I gotta stay high all the time to keep you off my mind," reflects the constant pain I'm enduring and will continue to endure until it's all over. Story 44. One More Light by Linkin Park discusses the importance of reaching out and talking to others about mental struggles. It resonates even more with the knowledge that Chester took his own life a month later. Now, the entire album carries an eerie feeling for me. Story 45. Christmas Truce, Sabaton. It was the last moment. Young men in World War I were human before the war escalated to twice or thrice its size and magnitude. Story 46. Titanium by Christina Grimmie is a cover of the David Guetta song featuring lyrics like, "I'm bulletproof, nothing to lose, fire away, and you shoot me down, but I won't fall, I am titanium." In 2016, she was tragically shot and killed by a fan while signing autographs at the age of 22. Story 47. Hosier's song In the Woods Somewhere is both funny and crushing. My husband told me that the inspiration for the song came from a childhood experience where Hosier heard 2 foxes fighting in the woods. The way the song sounds without context is haunting and beautiful. However, He ruined the song for me by making me actually listen to the lyrics and explaining that it's about someone going into the woods to commit suicide and deciding not to. I can't ever listen to it again. As a survivor myself, I can't handle anything that remotely touches on that topic, as it was a difficult time for me. 10 years later, I am still incredibly sensitive about it. I literally cried as I typed this. Story 48. Alice in Chains nutshell. Lane Staley struggled with addiction and depression. He died from an overdose. Story 49. Me and a Gun by Tori Amos is the story of her sexual assault, and it profoundly affects me as a survivor. Story 50. Dancing in the Moonlight is not a depressing song until you know the backstory. It depicts an alternate reality where the songwriter's girlfriend was not assaulted in St. Croix. I believe Kelly survived, but barely, while his girlfriend died from the attack. Some are suggesting that the girlfriend also survived. Story 51. The Mexican song most Mexicans and Hispanics know is Amor Eterno. It was written by Juan Gabriel and dedicated to his mother. The song was performed by the Spanish singer Rocío Dúrcal after the loss of her child. It's an emotional experience that resonates deeply. Story 52. How Do I Say Goodbye by Dean Lewis. Came across my Spotify playlist a few weeks after my dad died. No hidden context for him, just a song about a young man finding out his dad was dying. But for me, so much of it rang true, especially the chorus. So how do I say goodbye to someone who's been with me for my whole life? You gave me my name and the color of your eyes. I see your face when I look at mine. My dad was the one who named me. Our eyes are basically identical, and I have many of his features. It just hit like a gut punch. Plus, you can really hear the raw emotion in Dean's voice in the recording. I will sit down and cry to it multiple times. Story 53. I know it's Justin Bieber, but hear me out. Ghost was written by Bieber when his grandfather passed away. I can't get through the song without feeling emotional because it reminds me of my niece who died at 19 and loved Justin Bieber. Story 54. Sylvia's mother always comes to mind for sad songs. It is written from the perspective of a musician on the road trying to talk to his ex-girlfriend, but her mother answers the phone. This scenario could never happen today, as it is from a time when households typically had only one phone, and the musician is calling from payphones. Story 55. Floating in the Fourth is a song by Frightened Rabbit about suicidal thoughts and jumping off a bridge. The lead singer experienced a tragic loss a couple of years later. Story 56. I Am a Rock by Simon and Garfunkel. A peppy, upbeat rhythm masks a song that is actually about crushing loneliness. The person feeling that loneliness is trying to fill that void with things like poetry, but it doesn't work. They are lying to themselves, and they know it. They are so lonely that they are not even lying to others about their loneliness because there is nobody to listen to that. Story 57. Jeff Buckley's Dream Brother parallels his estranged father's folk song Dream Letter. In Dream Letter, Tim sings to his ex and child, Jeff. Tim left Jeff and his mother very early on. He was a famous folk singer who toured frequently and cheated on his family. He was never a part of Jeff's life. Tim sings, asterisk, is he a soldier or is he a dreamer? Asterisk, asterisk, is he mama's little man? Asterisk, asterisk, does he help you when he can? Asterisk, asterisk, oh, does he ask about me? Asterisk. Decades later, Jeff Buckley wrote a haunting response with Dream Brother, especially in these lyrics. Don't be like the one who made me so old. Don't be like the one who left behind his name, 'cause they're waiting for you like I waited for mine, and nobody ever came. Story 58. Billie Holiday's Gloomy Sunday is a poignant song about lost love and despair, often associated with themes of suicide. The lyrics evoke deep emotions of longing and sadness. Story 59. Keep Me in Your Heart for a While by Warren Zevon was written for his wife when he knew he was dying. I'm Not Gonna Miss You by Glenn Campbell is also for his wife, addressing his battle with Alzheimer's disease. The Show Must Go On by Queen, written by Brian May, has a compelling backstory that enhances its significance. Story 60. All That I've Got by The Used tells the story of the vocalist's pregnant girlfriend who died from an overdose. A month later, his dog was hit by a truck and also died. Story 61. Breathe Me Sia. Mary Jane Alanis Morissette. Sullen Girl Fiona Apple. One Sweet Day Mariah Carey. Together Again Janet Jackson. Story 62. Seasons in the Sun. It was an English version of an old Belgian song from 1961 about a dying man saying his final goodbyes to his loved ones. I have many favorites, but several have already been mentioned here. I do not know why my mom loved such morbidly sad music. She was not gothic at all. Story 63. Time in a Bottle by Jim Croce reflects his feelings of missing his wife and young child while he was on tour. Tragically, he died in a plane accident during that tour. Story 64. Not the saddest, but this is one that came to mind. I believe that Take Me to Church by Hozier is about violent persecution against homosexuality by religious institutions. I read somewhere that it addresses intolerance towards homosexuality in Russia specifically, but that could be incorrect. Story 65. The entire album Preacher's Daughter by Ethel Cain features a concept and storytelling that is haunting and heartbreaking. It is too lengthy to summarize in this post, but I highly recommend exploring and listening to the album, as well as other songs by Ethel Cain. Story 66. Monsters by James Blunt is about a son saying goodbye to his dying father. They had some issues but managed to reconcile before his father's final days. Story 67. The song Three Peaches by Neutral Milk Hotel tells the story of a girl who, in real life, attempted to take her own life but was saved by a friend. Despite its heart-wrenching themes, the song carries a sense of hope. Tragically, years after the song was written, after experiencing a stillbirth and the death of her husband, she ultimately took her own life. Story 68. Louis Capaldi's song, Someone You Loved, came out when my husband told me he was having an affair, and it resonates with me throughout the divorce. I still can't bear to listen to it. Story 69. The Show Must Go On by Queen is a song about a performer struggling to keep the show going despite pain and illness. It explores themes of mortality and suffering. This sentiment is intensified by the fact that Freddie Mercury was battling AIDS. The song is clearly a reflection of his experience. He recorded it in one take, powering through intense agony to complete the track. He passed away a month after its release, and the meaning is further deepened knowing what he endured at that time. Story 70. I Will Wait for You by Connie Francis. Watch the Jurassic Park episode of Futurama and try not to burst into tears whenever you hear this song again. Story 71. The Living Years Mike and the Mechanics. This song explores a son's feelings of regret regarding his relationship with his father and the things he wishes he could have expressed while his father was still alive. The lyrics were written by B.A. Robertson around the time of his father's passing and the birth of his own son. Story 72. Whiskey Lullaby by Brad Paisley and Alison Krauss tells the story of a soldier who returns home and quietly enters his house to surprise his girlfriend, only to discover her with another man in their bed. Heartbroken, he leaves, and she chases after him, but he rejects her. Consumed by grief, he drinks himself to death. Overwhelmed with guilt, she soon follows, drinking herself to death as well. The final scene depicts their embrace in the afterlife. Story 73. Before we moved in together, my boyfriend and I used to send each other songs we liked. He once sent me the Blanks cover of Hey Ya. I thought it was hauntingly beautiful, especially the clips of Sam Lloyd and his bandmates. They looked like they were having so much fun. Then I kept seeing comments from people saying R.I.P. Sam. So I looked him up and found out that he had recently passed away, and not long after, his child was born. I experienced a wide range of emotions within the 4.5 minutes it takes to listen to that song, and now it makes me tear up on the rare occasions I listen to it. Story 74. 4 a.m. by Our Lady Peace is a song about a man's distance from his father and ultimately discovering that he lost him during a call at 4 a.m. Story 75. Daddy's Home by the Jackson 5. My dad was in prison from the time my mother was 2 months pregnant with me until I was 6 or 7. He used to sing that beautifully sad song to us all the time. I felt every word. Story 76. Ladies and gentlemen, we are floating in space. All I want in life is a little bit of love to take the pain away. The song is about his heroin addiction, his struggle with severe depression, and his girlfriend leaving him for the drummer of his band. Story 77. Not a song, but an album, The Wall by Pink Floyd. The album explores the protagonist Pink's childhood, detailing how he lost his father, how his mother overindulged him, and how his school teachers verbally and sometimes physically abused him. All these events are just another brick in the wall for Pink. The wall he is building reaches completion when he discovers that his wife is cheating on him, causing him to spiral and ultimately isolate himself from everyone around him. The middle part of the album depicts his regrets about constructing the wall and his attempts to reconnect with others, but he struggles to reach anyone through it. In the end, he experiences a trial in his mind, with a judge ordering him to dismantle the wall. The album is a fantastic and dark exploration of Pink's psyche, and I highly recommend listening to it at least once. Story 78. Vincent by Don McLean is a song that reflects on the life of Vincent van Gogh, conveys a sense of sadness throughout. Story 79. The Weight of Missing by Aurora. Throughout her life, she has experienced the loss of several loved ones. This is an excerpt from her Wikipedia article. At an early age, she experienced the death of several loved ones. When a close family friend passed away on Christmas Eve, 11-year-old Aurora witnessed the sorrow at the funeral service. This experience led her to develop dysphonia, a condition that prompted her to learn sign language. When a friend from her sign language class died in a car accident in 2014, Aurora performed an unreleased song titled, "Why Did You Go to a Place?" during a private concert for her funeral. A friend from her school also died by suicide, and another friend with whom Aurora had a relationship died in 2011 during the Utoya massacre at the age of 17. Aurora wrote the song "Little Boy in the Grass" as a tribute to the latter and the other victims of the massacre. Story 80. There are many heartbreaking songs. From 12 years ago, Fatima by Kanon. From about 60 years ago, Me and Bobby McGee by Janis Joplin, where freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose and poor Bobby is gone. From 100 years ago, St. James Infirmary Blues. A sailor leaving the infirmary where he saw his lover lying stretched out on a cold white table. So sweet, so cold, so fair. Story 81. The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald by Gordon Lightfoot tells the true story of a shipwreck with no survivors on Lake Superior in November 1975, when a winter storm struck while crossing the lake. Does anyone know where the love of God goes when the waves turn the minutes to hours? Now nothing remains but the faces and names of the wives, sons, and daughters. The searchers all say they would have made Whitefish Bay if they had put 15 more miles behind her. Story 82. Goodbye to Love by the Carpenters. Karen Carpenter sings about how love has passed her by, and she will never feel love again. She died a few years after it was released. Story 83. The song "The Drugs Don't Work" by The Verve is not about addiction. It focuses on the singer's experience of losing his father to cancer. Story 84. Judy Garland's final performance of Over the Rainbow. Story 85. Eva Cassidy's cover of Autumn Leaves. She died of melanoma 4 months after this was recorded. Story 86. These songs are all by Taylor Swift. Ronan is about a little boy who died of cancer. His mother has co-writing credits because the lyrics include elements she wrote in her blog. Soon You'll Get Better addresses her mother's battle with cancer, and her mother did indeed recover. Marjorie is written about her grandmother and features some of her grandmother's vocals at the end, as she was an opera singer. Story 87. I don't know if it's the saddest, but Nearer My God to Thee affects me deeply every time. This is known as the last song the band played while the Titanic was sinking and is referenced as such in the movie. The band focused on soothing the nerves of the passengers, knowing the inevitable outcome but continuing to play. None of the band members survived the sinking, and the violin that belonged to bandmaster Wallace Hartley was recovered from the wreckage and rediscovered in 2006. Story 88. Moana's An Innocent Warrior song was inspired by Loimata e Maligi, written by the oceanic music group Te Vaka in 2002. in memory of 19 girls who lost their lives in a fire at a Tuvalu boarding school in 2000. Story 89. The first song that came to my mind was Linkin Park's Heavy, featuring Kiara. It's about struggling with internal emotional burdens like anxiety, self-doubt, and mental turmoil. Knowing he committed suicide not long after it was released adds to its impact on me. One More Light conveys a similar message. Story 90. If You Never Say Goodbye by PM Dawn is about the world ending and never getting to say goodbye to your loved ones. Story 91. Real Death and Seaweed Mtiri. This piece reflects on the author's wife who passed away from cancer. It is purposefully written in a blunt style and set in the room where she died, using her instruments. Story 92. Lots of sad songs. 1. The Line by 21 Pilots. The lead singer's grandmother recently passed away. See You Again by Charlie Puth. He wrote it for Paul Walker and did so beautifully because he lost his friend earlier in 2012. Story 93. Stems and Seeds by Commander Cody and the Lost Planet Airmen. If you've heard it, you know. P.S. Same group known for Hot Rod Lincoln. Story 94. Gary Allan's cover of Vertical Horizon's Best I Ever Had was recorded after the tragic loss of his wife. Story 95. Mother Love by Queen is about a person who understands they are running out of time to spend with their mother, often because the mother is old and weak and near death. In reality, when composing this song, Freddie Mercury was only a couple of months away from his own passing, so close that he could not sing the final verse. Brian May performed it for him. Mercury's mother lived more than 20 years after her son's death. Story 96. Not necessarily sad, but very creepy and disturbing. Many songs by the Toadies sound sweet or quirky, but they often revolve around rapists and murderers from their home in Texas. Tyler is about a rapist from Tyler, Texas, so the lyrics, I Will Be With Her Tonight, are not cute at all when you listen to the entire song. Possum Kingdom includes the line, I will treat you well, my sweet angel, so help me Jesus. And it is definitely about luring a woman to her own murder. Story 97. Seasons in the Sun by Terry Jacks has an uplifting melody, but it tells a heartbreaking story. Story 98. Dark Chandelier, Anna Tivell. It is a song about a hard-working family man who gets laid off after decades of work. He sits on his front porch and drinks, thinking about how wrong it was that he was tossed aside as if all those years meant nothing. He feels ashamed for losing his job because he is supposed to provide for his family. Then he gets into his truck. It is raining and he is drunk. He crashes and wakes up to rain coming in through the cracked glass, with emergency medical technicians nearby. All he can think about is how much he loves his family and how he does not want to leave them. It is haunting and beautiful and also relatable. Story 99. Memento Mori Architects. Tom, the guitar player, wrote most of the album knowing he was going to pass away from cancer. The last song on the album is a tribute to him. Rest in peace, Tom Searle. Story 100. I Don't Like Mondays by the Boomtown Rats. Despite being an upbeat song, it is really dark and depressing when you realize it's about a school shooting. Brenda and Spencer went on a shooting spree at an elementary school and commented afterwards that her reason for the shooting was that she didn't like Mondays, and that it livened up the day. Story 101. I Wish It Would Rain by The Temptations tells the story of a man who wishes for rain to conceal his tears after his woman leaves him. The songwriter experienced a similar heartbreak and tragically took his own life just before the song achieved great success. Story 102. I Wish It Would Rain. The version I know is a cover by Little Caesar. The songwriter tragically took his own life. Sunshine and blue skies, please go away. My girl has found another and left. With her went my future. My life is filled with gloom. So day after day, I stay locked up in my room. I know to you it might sound strange, but I wish it would rain. Story 103. Cats in the Cradle. It is sadder because that is the line my dad used instead of simply saying he loves me since I reached adulthood. I am 44. The song is ambiguous, but Jim Croce's Time in a Bottle is beautiful and wrenching when you understand it was going to make him a star, where he was in life, and yes. Story 104. The Living Years by Mike and the Mechanics always reminds me of my estranged father, who ended his life when I was in high school, so I never had the chance to show him who I grew up to be. Story 105, Ronan by Taylor Swift. With permission, she took lines from the blog of a mother whose little boy, Ronan, lost his battle with cancer. She gave the mother co-writing credit and then released it as a charity single. I've never listened to the whole song because the first chorus brings me to such an emotional state that I can barely breathe. Story 106, Who Let the Dogs Out by Baha Men. I hope the dogs are okay, and to this day I wonder what happened to them. Story 107, Ronan by Taylor Swift is about a 4-year-old boy who died of cancer. The song is written from his mother's point of view. Story 108, You are providing many amazing recommendations. I plan to listen to each one as soon as I can. Story 109, Jimmy Eat World's Hear You Me, was written for 2 fans who passed away in a car accident in 1997. It's a beautiful tribute and more bittersweet than depressing, I guess. One Sweet Day by Boyz II Men and Mariah Carey is a sad song on its own, but my personal context is that it came out the same year a boy in my 5th grade class passed away from cancer. He wanted it played at the funeral. It's been 30 years, but I'm sure it still turns many of us from that class into sobbing messes when we hear that song. Luckily, I don't encounter it very often. Story 110, Arcade Fire's My Body is a Cage does not have a backstory, but you can imagine one when you listen to the lyrics. My body is a cage that keeps me from dancing with the one I love is a lyric that is repeated. I know a ballet dancer, the most beautiful person I have ever met both physically and as a person. She lives thousands of miles from her family, takes all the advanced placement classes at school, and then goes to pre-professional ballet classes right after school until 10 p.m. She works so hard to pursue what she loves, but she can't keep dancing, not because of finances, time, or the improbability of making it big, but because, through no fault of her own, the shape of her spine harms her, and the durability of her foot fails. To me, this song is about her. She works harder than anyone I know but can't do what she loves because of things so personal to her that she cannot control. That feeling of helplessness builds an unbridled rage that we cannot show, but we can imagine it, and the Santa Clara Vanguard performed it. They played a cover of My Body is a Cage that starts with a beautiful and tender baritone duet, which ends dramatically when the rest of the horns join in. You're hit by a wall of music, the loudest thing I've ever heard. So loud and powerful is this sound that you get captivated by its beauty, but it's not beautiful. When you listen closely, the instruments aren't played at their best or clearest, nor are they making their most beautiful sounds. They sacrifice technique and tenderness to be as loud as they can. They embody that unbridled rage. Story 111, Yesterday, by Atmosphere. If you've lost your dad, it hits harder than a brick wall to the face. What becomes of the broken-hearted Joan Mitchell cover? It speaks for itself if you have a sore heart. Story 112, Alan Forever by Lupe Fiasco. Hearing it for the first time was enjoyable. Learning the context behind it was an emotional experience. Story 113, Masters of War by Bob Dylan could have been written today. He could be talking about figures like Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Benjamin Netanyahu, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and others. It makes me feel like things will never get better. Story 114, Wounded Healer by Watsky explores the theme of the wounded healer, a concept in psychology where a person excels at healing others due to their own experiences of pain. This theme is underscored by the tragic event of Watsky's father's best friend taking his own life, compelling Watsky to confront his father's mortality, a poignant element of the song. Der Weg by Herbert Grönemeyer is a beautiful love song that becomes profoundly tragic as it is written in memory of his wife, who has recently passed away. Story 115, Den stora dagen by vikingarna. The old lady is getting ready for her birthday celebration, but the children call her to tell her that they forgot it was her birthday and need to work and do other things instead. Story 116. The song Constance was written by singer Courtney and her husband, guitarist Mike. It addresses themes of death, loss, and forgetting. The song is a tribute to Courtney's grandmother, who was suffering from dementia at the time it was written. Her grandmother always wished for her daughter to create a song without screaming, which is what this song became. Before the song was completed, Courtney's grandmother passed away and never had the chance to hear it. Courtney was unable to attend her grandmother's funeral due to the pandemic. The poignant music video was created with director Dylan Hrysiak, whose grandmother also suffered from dementia before she passed. It features various individuals, each confronting their own experiences with dementia. I came across this comment under the video that resonated with me. Constance is my mom. Today, December 4th, is her birthday. She is 88. She is the nurse in the photo and is currently in a long-term care home. I have not seen her since early March of this year due to the pandemic. Unfortunately, the press release is incorrect. Courtney's grandmother died in 2020, and she wrote the beautiful lyrics to honor her. Dylan's grandmother is still living but has been suffering from dementia for several years. Dylan created the video imagery to honor his grandmother and her struggles. My mom goes by Connie to those who know her. Today, her proper name, Constance, feels more meaningful. Dylan from Versa Films is my son. I am grateful to Courtney and Spiritbox for their courage in tackling such a difficult subject. Courtney, I am deeply sorry for the loss of your grandmother. The comments from everyone who has experienced this resonate with me. As her son, I understand how it affects me. Seeing my mother forget who I am, counting the times she remembers my name, we often overlook how these circumstances and this disease impact the grandchildren. Dylan, Courtney, and all the comments illustrate that the pain runs deep within families. It is tough to watch this video, and it is even harder to live through this experience in real life. Words cannot begin to describe it. Thank you to everyone for their heartfelt comments, even if they are difficult to share. It's amazing what Dylan and Courtney have created, and Spiritbox's contribution is remarkable. Constance would be proud, and I am proud as well. On February 17, 2023, 1 year ago at 12:15 a.m., Constance, the nurse in the photo, ended her battle with dementia. My mom fought hard for over 6 years, and the last 3 days of her life were painful to witness. From February 14th to February 17th, 2022, her body began its final painful shutdown. This terrible disease slowly erases the person we once knew right before our eyes, stripping away memories and ultimately all functions of the mind as the body can no longer sustain life. This video and song have provided great comfort to me since their release, and they have been an even greater source of solace after my mom's passing. I cannot count the number of times I have watched it since her death. It was the first thing I listened to and watched on the morning of her passing. I continue to watch and listen to it regularly. The song and video have resonated with many people, as evidenced by the comments and reaction videos. The subject matter is challenging for any band to address, and Spiritbox deserves recognition for their bravery. The imagery of the video reveals a different kind of horror story that countless people face in real life. I cannot express how grateful I am for this song and video. Thank you to Courtney and Spiritbox for creating such a beautiful song, and thank you to Dylan and Versa Films for the powerful visuals. Story 117. Time in a Bottle by Jim Croce is a melancholy love song about cherishing the time you have with someone and always wishing for more time. Tragically, Croce died in a plane crash less than 2 years after writing it. Story 118:39 by Queen. This song is totally underrated, and it breaks my heart whenever I listen to it. They leave Earth, and when they come back, they are the same age, but everyone they knew is long gone. Story 119. They Took the Children Away by Archie Roach is about Indigenous children being taken from their families in Australia. Unfortunately, this issue resonates in North America as well. Story 120. Needle and the Damage Done by Neil Young reflects on themes of loss and addiction. It explores the struggles associated with drug dependency, often symbolized through relationships. Story 121. Seeds and Stems, Commander Cody and his Lost Planet Airmen. On top of losing just about everything else in his life, he is out of drugs too. This is the saddest song ever. Story 122. Johnny Cash's Hurt originally belongs to the group 9 Inch Nails. However, Johnny's version had a significant impact on me when I watched Logan for the first time. Story 123. Nutshell by Alice in Chains is my usual go-to answer because it feels like the beginning of a slow-moving end. After that, addiction took hold, and eventually addiction won. Story 124. There is a Polish pop folk song called Winged Hands, which is very popular at weddings. I have loved it since it was released. Recently, I found out that it talks about suicide. Story 125. Save Him by Justin Nozuka is about an abusive, alcoholic husband from the perspective of their son. According to the artist, it is a true story from his foster brother's childhood. Story 126. Alyssa Lies by Jason Michael Carroll, Almost Home by Craig Morgan, and Forever and Always by Parachute are some of my favorite songs. Additionally, Whiskey Lullaby will always be one of my top sad songs. Story 127. Soul Songs. Ohia. Not one for when you are feeling low. I tell all your friends that you're bound for glory. How long did you know that you'd make it there before me? What is it like? Is it worth this misfortune? What is it like on the other side? These 20 years I've loved one thing only. I love what I know about passion. I love what I know about mercy. I love what I know about patience. I love what I know about soul. And I know you. And I know you. And I know you. Jason Molina wrote it during a bout of depression and later died of multiple organ failure due to alcoholism. Story 128. Agnes by Glass Animals. The song explores the stages of grief related to a close friend's suicide. Story 129. Not a typical sad song, but keep on rockin' in the free world. The last verse is a gut punch. There's one more kid. Story 130. Jeremy from Pearl Jam is based on a 15-year-old boy who shot himself in front of his high school English class in the 1990s. It is tragic. He wrote a letter expressing his sorrow for disappointing his parents. Story 131. Jeremy by Pearl Jam tells the story of a troubled boy who takes his own life in school in front of his classmates, based on Jeremy Wade Dell. I remember feeling like that was the first time I heard about school shootings, and it just became more common after that. Story 132. Nutshell by Alice in Chains addresses the hopelessness of addiction, ultimately reflecting on the struggles that led to Lane Staley's death. Story 133. Which Way You Going, Billy? By the Poppy Family, about a man abandoning his wife to fight in Vietnam. Story 134. Pearl Jam's Last Kiss, as told by Wayne Cochran, involves a 16-year-old girl who died in a car crash while on her first date. Story 135. It's probably not the saddest song I've ever heard, but when I'm in the right mood, The Dance by Garth Brooks really touches my heart. Story 136. Ryan's Song by Ash is about her brother who passed away from an overdose. It addresses the shock of losing someone and the realization of all the time and experiences that will never be shared. As someone who has come close to ending it all a few times in my life, hearing the perspective of the surviving sibling profoundly affects me. Story 137. Life of the Spider by Halsey is profoundly sad in the context of her battle with cancer. The song expresses feelings of being vulnerable and unwell, evoking fear in those around her, much like encountering a spider in one's home. Story 138. Guy Clark's Dublin Blues resonates with me deeply every time I hear it. The nostalgia and longing I experience reflect the reasons he wrote the song. Story 139. I dislike Eric Clapton, but Tears in Heaven fits the bill. It's a sorrowful song with poignant lyrics, and then you learn it's because his 4-year-old son fell from the 53rd floor of a skyscraper, making it even more tragic. Story 140. I'm Not Going to Miss You, Glenn Campbell. Sung to his wife as Alzheimer's begins to set in, heartbreaking. Story 141. Blackbird by Paul McCartney. He saw a black woman being beaten by the police outside his New York City hotel window. Wish You Were Here by the Bee Gees, 2 months after Andy died. River by Joni Mitchell is about Graham Nash when she left him to pursue her own path. Story 142. 4th of July by Sufjan Stevens is a poignant song. It was inspired by the time he spent in the hospital with his mother before she passed away. Story 143. A beautifully devastating example is Elephant by Jason Isbell. At first listen, it is a somber acoustic ballad, but it unfolds into a deeply intimate story about a man watching someone he loves slowly die of cancer. What makes it uniquely heartbreaking is the unflinching honesty. The song does not romanticize illness or death. Instead, it captures the everyday struggle, the jokes, the barroom conversations, the unbearable helplessness. Isbell wrote it after witnessing a close friend suffer through terminal illness, and his writing reflects both the deep affection and quiet devastation of being there for someone who is fading. The grief is not loud. It lingers in the space between lines, in things left unsaid. Story 144. You should translate El Gran Verón by Willie Colon. It is the funniest and catchiest song to dance to, but the lyrics are about a trans guy who is neglected by his father throughout his life and dies from a strange disease, possibly AIDS. Story 145. Watermelon in Easter Hay by Frank Zappa is an instrumental from his Joe's Garage album and represents the last guitar solo that the titular character, Joe, plays. It is such an emotional piece that it can bring me to tears. After Zappa died, it took on an even more emotional significance in his vast musical repertoire, as he left instructions for all of his music to be sold, except Watermelon in Easter Hay. He requested that it not be played live again until his son Dweezil could perform it. Many years later, Dweezil felt he could do it justice and was also ready for the emotional side of it. I believe this video is of him playing it for the first time. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.